I was recently with one of my childhood mates, as I believed it to be a special occasion as we hadn't seen one another in years, and we absolutely had to reminisce about the old times that we shared and also what we were currently doing with our lives at the time. I naturally decided to invite him to my flat so we could talk and catch up and talk about our experiences, when I offered to buy some takeaway that we could bring to my home so we could have dinner together and talk about things. He mentioned that he'd be fine with whatever I had bought, so I casually mentioned pizza. He specifically mentioned that he didn't actually like pizza from the chain eateries, and I thought it a bit odd, so I asked him why. While we went to a location for food, and we later brought it back to my flat, he told me experiences relating to pizza takeaways that he had had when he was younger. He mentioned to me that when he was a child, he lived in a somewhat less reputable neighborhood, but due to him being childishly innocent, he didn't know just how bad it was in that area until many years later after he had moved away, as there were always particular occurrences when he or his parents desired to eat pizza as a takeaway for that day's dinner. Unlike other restaurants that offered delivery, the only casual pizza eatery within the area was a chain establishment not far from his family's apartment complex of the time. You could get your usual pizza toppings, accessories, and soda, but they never ever delivered. While we ate the food in my flat, he looked to me and he told me why. Apparently, years before, the pizza eatery used to deliver to my mate's apartment complex, but after a number of occasions where their delivery men were robbed of their money on pizza, they refused to deliver to the specific area that he lived in. So I stopped eating for a moment and spoke to him, asking if that was a bad thing. He nodded and we continued to eat. Supposedly, the pizza eatery even considered refusing pizza orders from anyone who gave an address from the specific area that my mate lived in at the time. He stopped eating for a moment and continued speaking, mentioning that they just couldn't do that because not all people who lived in that area were criminals or thieves. The pizza eatery assumed that everyone of poor income was automatically bad. I shook my head in agreement, mentioning that it was some sort of racial bias or assumption of the eatery. He nodded in agreement, as there were even calls for a boycott, which would have most likely caused it to close, and that's why there was a compromise. So a discount was given to anyone ordering from the specific area. I thought it peculiar as I stopped eating. He noticed me being very attentive as he nodded and continued to tell me his story. People living in the area were given anywhere from a 10 to 15% discount depending on how much they ordered. I granted my head in disbelief, mentioning that actually a pretty good deal considering what you'd order. He mentioned that though it was a technical disadvantage for the pizza eatery, they made back a profit from the discount by the sheer amount of pizza and related foods they'd sell. He paused for a moment, then continued to mention that this particular arrangement between the pizza eatery and the locals of the quote-unquote undesirable area remained intact for a number of years. Eventually, the pizza eatery stopped giving the discount to the people that lived in the specific area. I finally asked if the pizza eatery went out of business. Shaking his head once more, pausing for a moment to drink and then continue to eat, he mentioned that at first there were no real changes in the business. But as time passed and word spread that the infamous or iconic discount was no longer being offered, the pizza eatery eventually did close. Ever since then, my mate never liked to have pizza as a takeaway choice due to him remembering the discount from the eatery when he was a child. He mentioned that having such a reasonable discount on pizza for so many years gave the people the assumption that there should always be a discount on foods for peoples depending on the circumstances that they might be in.